A last day. Prologue. Echo voices drifted through the fog of memory, in fragments, like leaves on the wind. He always helped, even when it was dangerous. His hands saved lives, his hands which now lay still. But today we won't begin at the end. We'll begin with the morning, with the most ordinary morning that would become the last, with coffee that would grow cold in the cup, with a decision that would change everything and nothing at the same time. This is the story of one day. But to understand this day, you need to understand the whole life. Act 1. Roots, morning, January 24th. Alex Pretty woke at 6:30 a.m. to pain in his left side. The broken rib reminded him of itself every time he turned in his sleep. 7 days ago, 5 federal agents knocked him down while chasing a family through the streets of Minneapolis. The crack of bone, asphalt slamming into his back. They didn't even stop to check if he was okay. He lay in the half-darkness of his bedroom, listening to the city wake up outside his window. The sound of cars, a distant siren. An ordinary January morning in Minnesota. Cold, gray, indifferent to human pain. Alex turned his head to the right, where Jewel used to lie. The empty spot on the floor next to his bed still hurt more sharply than the broken rib. His Catahoula leopard dog, a spotted beauty with intelligent eyes, his faithful companion on all hikes, on all protests, had died a month ago. The apartment seemed too quiet without his breathing, without the click of claws on hardwood, without the warm body pressing against his leg in the mornings. 37 years old. Alex smiled bitterly in the darkness. The same age as Renee Hood when they shot her 17 days ago. 17 days that turned everything upside down. He rose slowly, holding his side, and walked barefoot across the cold hardwood to the kitchen. The apartment was small, a one-bedroom on the second floor of an old 1920s building in the Whittier neighborhood. High ceilings, creaky floorboards, radiators that hissed at night. The windows faced Nicollet Avenue. From the kitchen window, he could see the intersection with 26th Street. In 3 hours, that place would become the last thing he'd ever see. The coffee maker hissed, filling the kitchen with aroma. Alex leaned against the counter, watching the dark liquid drip into the ceramic cup with the Veterans Hospital emblem.
I was born at Lutheran General Hospital in Park Ridge, a suburb of Chicago. My family was of Northern Italian descent. The Pretty name came across the ocean with my great-grandfather, who worked in factories and dreamed that his great-grandchildren would live better. But my childhood wasn't in Chicago. We moved to Green Bay, Wisconsin when I was 3. Green Bay isn't just a city, it's a place where people know their neighbors, where winter lasts 6 months and the snow in February comes up to your waist, where on Sundays the whole city stops to watch the Packers play. Mom, Susan, woke up before everyone else. I'd wake to the smell of coffee she brewed in the kitchen of our small house on Quiet Street. Quiet Street? What irony. It was loud with children's voices. We played football right on the road until dark, until our parents called us home. When I was 9, Mom enrolled me in the Green Bay Boys Choir. I sang boy soprano, high, clear voice that would crack on the high notes if I got nervous. We sang at Christmas in St. Francis Xavier Cathedral. I saw Mom in the first row. She was crying. I didn't understand why then. Now I do. She was crying from pride and fear at the same time. Pride in her son. Fear that the world was too cruel for a boy who sang about peace. Dad, Michael, was a mechanic, hands perpetually scraped and covered in motor oil. But on weekends he'd scrub those hands white and take me to Boy Scouts. Every Saturday, no matter the weather. I memorized the first Scout law for life. Help other people at all times, not when convenient, not when safe, at all times. I was 12 when that law was first tested. We were hiking on a forest trail. A little boy from the younger group, maybe 8 years old, fell ahead of us. He cut his knee on a rock. Blood. Tears. We were falling behind the group. I wanted to walk past. But Dad put his hand on my shoulder and looked into my eyes. He didn't say a word, just looked. And I understood. I bandaged the boy's knee with my neckerchief, which was supposed to stay clean for inspection. We caught up with the group last. Dad smiled the whole way home. The next day he bought me a new neckerchief and said only, "Proud." At Preble High School, I played football. Defensive back, not the fastest, not the strongest. But Coach Johnson said I was reliable. Baseball in summer. Track and field in spring. I wasn't a star. Not someone they write about in the school paper. I was the one who stayed after practice to put away equipment. The one who encouraged losing teammates. The one who brought water to the bench. Teamwork. Dad said real teamwork is when you do what needs to be done even if no one sees, even if no one thanks you. In 2006, I graduated from Preble. At graduation, Dad hugged me, firmly, man to man, with a slap on the back. He told me something then that I'd remember in the last minute of my life. "You always stood for truth, son. Keep doing it, even when it costs, especially when it costs."
Alex blinked, returning to the present. The coffee was ready. He poured a cup, burned his fingers on the hot ceramic, but didn't let go. Pain grounded him, returned him to reality. He turned on the TV on the wall. CNN Morning News. The reporter's face, serious and tired. Behind him, footage. People running through streets, unmarked vans, masked agents. The third week of Immigration Control Service operations in Minneapolis. The Trump administration insists on the necessity of harsh measures. Local authorities criticize the federal government for excessive use of force. After the killing of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Hood on January 7th, protests haven't stopped. Alex muted the sound but didn't turn off the screen. He couldn't take his eyes away. Renee Hood, her photo on the screen, a smiling woman with dark hair, an ordinary American, a citizen. Her car simply blocked the path of an ICS pickup truck without markings. One shot. She died instantly. 37 years old. Like him. Alex walked to the window, holding the warm cup in both hands. Below, the street was almost empty. Just a lone jogger in a reflective jacket. Too early for the rush. But in an hour, the vans would appear. They appeared every day for the past 3 weeks. On the wall above the table hung his diploma in a simple black frame. University of Minnesota, 2011, bachelor's degree in biology, society, and environment. Next to it, a framed photo. Himself, 5 years younger, in white nurse's scrubs, on his first day working in the ICU. Smile from ear to ear. Naive confidence in his eyes. Alex took a sip of coffee and looked at that photograph.
After high school, I enrolled at the University of Minnesota, College of Liberal Arts. Many didn't understand my choice of major, biology, society, and environment. Not medicine, not engineering, not business. Ecology. Why ecology? Because I remembered the Wisconsin forests, hiking with Dad. Pine groves where you could breathe deeply and not smell exhaust fumes. Lakes where the water was so clean you could see the bottom at 10 feet. Dad told me then that the land doesn't belong to us, and we're only its stewards. Temporary, fragile stewards. I graduated in 2011. I was 22. The world seemed huge and full of possibilities. I didn't know then what I'd become, only knew I wanted to help. I spent 3 years searching, worked here and there, small research projects, soil analysis, population studies. But something wasn't right. I was helping nature, but nature didn't say thank you. Nature was silent. In 2014, I saw an advertising. The Minneapolis Veterans Health Administration was looking for a research assistant, clinical PTSD research program. I sent my resume, not really hoping. They called me a week later. I'll never forget my first day at the Veterans Hospital. Long corridors with green walls, the smell of disinfectant that seeps into your clothes, quiet conversations, wheelchairs, and eyes. The eyes of men and women who'd returned from war. I worked with data, questionnaires, surveys, statistics, dry numbers. But behind each number was a person, a Vietnam veteran who woke every night in cold sweat thinking he was still in the jungle. A young woman from Iraq who couldn't hear the sound of fireworks. A man from Afghanistan who couldn't look at sand. I realized then that research wasn't enough. I needed to be closer. I needed to hold their hands. I needed to be there when they screamed in the darkness. In 2017, I returned to university, this time to nursing school. 4 years of study, lectures, practice, anatomy, pharmacology, night shifts in hospitals, first patients, first successes, first deaths, January 2021, exactly 5 years ago. I received my Minnesota registered nurse license. I still remember the license number by heart. I was as proud as if I'd graduated from Harvard. Mom cried on the phone. Dad said only, "Knew you could do it." My first shift in the intensive care unit. I came an hour early with pressed scrubs, polished shoes. Dr. Nitri Draconia, head of the infectious disease department, met me in the hallway, tall, graying, with kind eyes behind thin-framed glasses. He told me then, "Welcome to the ICU, pretty. Here you'll see the worst and best in people. The worst is their diseases. The best is their will to live. Your job is to support that will, nothing more. Just be there and support." I worked as a nurse for 4 years, 4 years of 12-hour shifts, 4 years caring for critically ill veterans. I held their hands when they died. I wiped sweat from their foreheads when fever spiked. I changed IVs, checked blood pressure, administered medications. I talked with them when they couldn't sleep at night from pain. I remember one patient, December 2023, an 84-year-old man, Vietnam veteran, George was his name, lung cancer, final stage. His daughter, Jean Trebas, visited every day. She'd sit by her father's bed and hold his hand. One night, George woke in panic. He thought he was in the jungle. He screamed, tried to get out of bed, ripped out IVs. I didn't restrain him with force. I just sat next to him and spoke quietly. "George, you're home. You're safe. The war is over. You came back." Again and again for half an hour until he calmed down. Jean hugged me then and said, Thank you for being here." George died a week later, quietly in his sleep, holding his daughter's hand. After the funeral, Jean sent me a letter. She wrote that I'd given her father dignity in his last days, that she'd never forget it. I was a nurse. My hands were made to heal wounds. They held syringes and bandages. They stroked the foreheads of the dying. They saved lives. I was a member of Professional Unit 3669 of the American Federation of Government Employees, a union, colleagues, a brotherhood of people who believed that government work should serve the people, not power. Dr. Drakenia said I was an outstanding nurse. I don't know if her claims held true. I just did my job, helped others, at all times.
Alex finished the cold coffee. Bitter. He'd forgotten to add sugar. It was 7:30. His shift started at 8 a.m. 30 minutes to get to the hospital. He should already be leaving. He looked at his phone lying on the table. The screen lit up. 23 unread messages in the protesters' group chat. Today there will be operations on Nicollet again. Need observers with cameras. They're chasing families on the streets in broad daylight. Come if you can. People are in danger. Alex picked up the phone. Opened another chat, work, with ICU colleagues. Martha had written 20 minutes ago. Alex, are you on your way? We're fully loaded today. He looked at his scrubs hanging on the chair by the door. Clean, pressed, ready. Badge with his photo and name. Alex Pretty RN, ICU. Then he looked at the jacket on another chair. Warm winter jacket. Under it, a phone with a good camera for recording. In the jacket pocket, a holster with a pistol. Legal weapon. Valid carry permit. Clean criminal record. 2 chairs. 2 paths. Alex closed his eyes, but he already knew. The decision was made days ago, maybe weeks ago, maybe the moment he saw Renee Hood's photo. Some decisions aren't made. They simply reveal who you already are.
May 2020 changed everything. May 25th, Monday. I was on day shift at the hospital, ordinary day, checking vital signs, changing IVs, talking with patients about weather, news, what they were serving in the cafeteria. That evening I came home tired. Jewel met me at the door, wagging his tail. I opened my phone to check the news, and I saw the video. 9 minutes, 29 seconds. A man on the asphalt, a knee on his neck. I can't breathe. Again and again. The officer doesn't remove his knee. 8 minutes 46 seconds. The man stops moving. George Floyd, here in Minneapolis, a few miles from my house. I watched that video and something broke inside. I was a nurse. I knew what happens when a person can't breathe. Asphyxiation, oxygen deprivation, brain death, all of it could have been stopped. Just remove the knee. But no one removed the knee. The next day, protests began. I saw them on TV, crowds in the streets, signs. Black Lives Matter. No police violence. Justice for George. On the third day, I couldn't take it anymore. I took Jewel and drove downtown. My first protest. I didn't know what to expect. Fear that violence would start. Fear I'd be arrested. Fear it was pointless. But when I stood in that crowd among thousands of people just like me, ordinary people who simply couldn't stay silent anymore, I understood something important. I treated the consequences of violence every day. I healed wounds inflicted by systems, poverty, war, injustice. They came to my hospital broken, and I pieced them back together. But are there enough bandages in the world if we don't stop what's breaking people? I went to protests all summer 2020. I met people there who became friends, activists, organizers, ordinary citizens who believed the world could change. The protests ended. Life returned to normal, or what we called normal. But I could no longer pretend I didn't see. I saw everything. I saw how power acted with impunity, how it broke lives and walked away unpunished. I understood then that silence is complicity, that non-intervention is a choice, and I made my choice.
Alex opened his eyes. The decision was made. He texted Martha. Sorry, can't make it today. I'm needed somewhere else. Sent. He picked up the jacket from the chair. Act 2. The path, 8:00 a.m. The drive, Alex drove through the streets of Minneapolis, not toward the Veterans Hospital to the south, but downtown toward Nicollet Avenue. The radio played quietly, a local station, morning show. The host joked about the weather, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, typical January in Minnesota. Alex turned off the radio. The joke seemed inappropriate. Outside the window, his city passed by. The city he loved, and that was falling apart. Caribou Coffee on the corner. 3 months ago, a barista from Honduras worked there. Maria. She made the best latte in the city and always asked about Jewel. Now the coffee shop was open, but Maria had disappeared. No one knew where. Deported? Hiding? Dead? No one asked questions. Dangerous to ask questions. The bus stop by the library. There used to always be a group of Latino workers standing there, waiting for rides to construction sites. Now the stop was empty. People were afraid to gather together. Any group of immigrants could attract attention from unmarked vans, a school bus at the traffic light. Inside, children's faces pressed to windows, laughing, carefree. They didn't know that some of their classmates had simply stopped coming to school over the past 3 weeks, disappeared, along with their families. Alex gripped the steering wheel tighter. The pain in his side reminded him with a sharp jolt. He involuntarily winced, exhaled through his teeth. 7 days ago, January 17th, he was standing on a corner watching an ICS operation, recording on his phone. Just recording, it was his right as a citizen. He saw 5 agents in black uniforms without markings chasing a family. Mother, father, 2 children. They were running. The mother held the youngest child in her arms. Alex didn't intervene. He just stood and recorded. But when the agents knocked the father to the ground, when one of them pressed his knee to the man's head against the asphalt, something snapped in Alex. He shouted, "Stop! He's not resisting." The agents turned toward him. He didn't even see how it started. Suddenly, 5 bodies slammed into him. A push, falling, asphalt. Something cracked in his chest. Pain, sharp and bright. They didn't even arrest him, just pushed him away and returned to chasing the family. Alex lay on the sidewalk for a minute, unable to breathe. Passers-by walked around him. No one helped. Everyone was afraid. He drove himself to the hospital. X-rays showed a fracture in the 11th rib on the left. The doctor looked at him with sympathy and said, "File a complaint." Alex just smirked. Complain to whom? The agents had no badges. Nameless executors of nameless policy. The phone rang. The dashboard screen showed, "Dad." Alex hesitated, then pressed the button. "Hey, Dad. Alex, son. Where are you?" His father's voice was worried. Michael Preddy always sensed when something wasn't right. Driving downtown. Pause. To a protest? Yes. Alex. His father sighed. I saw the news. I know what's happening there. I understand why you're going. But son, be careful. Please. I'm always careful, Dad. No. His father's voice became firmer. No, you're not careful. You've never been careful when it comes to helping others. You've been like that since you were 12. I'm proud of you, but I'm afraid for you. Alex felt a lump in his throat. I have to do this. You taught me yourself. Help others at all times. I know what I said. I know. But, Alex, these people are dangerous. They already killed one woman. They broke your rib. That's exactly why I need to be there, Dad. Because they're dangerous. Because someone has to witness. Long pause. Alex could hear his father's breathing on the other end. I love you, son. I love you too, Dad. Call me when you get home. Call. I'll call. I promise. He hung up. This was Alex Pretty's last conversation with his father.
January 7th, 2026, Tuesday. Morning. I was home. Day off. Planning to drive out of town, into nature. Jewel had died recently and I felt empty. Nature always helped. The silence of the forest, clean air, snow underfoot. I was packing my backpack when my phone vibrated. News notification. I almost didn't open it. But something made me. Woman shot by immigration agent in Minneapolis. I opened the article, and the world stopped moving. Renee Nicole Hood. 37 years old, Minneapolis resident, American citizen. Last night, January 7th, around 10 p.m., her car blocked the path of an Immigration Control Service pickup truck without markings at an intersection in the Longfellow neighborhood. An agent got out of the pickup. A brief confrontation followed, one shot. Renee died on the spot. She had no weapon, made no threats, just a car in the wrong place at the wrong time. Official statement from the Department of Homeland Security. The agent acted within self-defense protocols. Investigation continues. I looked at her photo on the screen. An ordinary woman, smiling, dark hair. She was someone to someone, a daughter, maybe a sister, maybe a mother, a person with dreams, plans, unfinished business, and now she was gone. Because her car was in the path of an unmarked pickup, 37 years old, like me. I didn't drive into nature that day. I drove downtown to the City Hall building where people were gathering. The first protest after Renee's killing. There were maybe 200 of us, maybe 300. We held signs. Justice for Renee. Her name is Renee Hood. U.S. citizens shouldn't fear their own government. The police stood nearby but didn't intervene. Minneapolis City Police were on our side, though they couldn't say so out loud. Their chief, Brian O'Hara, publicly criticized the federal agents' actions. But city police had no authority over federal agents. I met people there from the Immigrant League of Community Minnesota, ILCM. Activists, lawyers, volunteers. They helped families hide. They documented violations. They shouted into the void, hoping someone would hear. One woman, an organizer named Maria, not Maria the barista, another Maria, told me, "Thank you for coming. We need witnesses. We need people who won't turn away." I answered, "I won't turn away." And I didn't turn away. I came every day for the next 17 days. Sometimes after my shift at the hospital, tired with aching legs. Sometimes instead of my shift causing bewilderment and concern among colleagues. I recorded, I witnessed, I saw them grab people in broad daylight, tear families apart, children crying as they watched their parents shoved into vans. I saw fear in the eyes of people who'd lived here for years, decades, fear that they were next. This wasn't immigration policy, this was terror. Systematic, targeted terror, President Trump said in an interview. We're restoring order, we're protecting borders, we're making America great again. What greatness is there in killing your own citizens? What order is there in kidnapping children off the streets? I'm not a politician, I'm a nurse. I know only one thing. My job is to protect life, any life. And if the government becomes a threat to life, then my job is to stand between the government and the people. I described it as kidnapping children, because that's what it was. Agents grabbed people without warrants, without explanations, stuffed them in vans, drove them away to unknown places. Families didn't know if their loved ones were alive. Dad asked me on the phone, "Alex, are you sure? Maybe it's dangerous?" I answered, "Dad, if I don't do it, who will? I'm a nurse. I took an oath. Do no harm. Protect life." Mom cried. She said, "You've always been like this, always wanting to save the world. But the world doesn't want to be saved." I kissed her through the phone and said, "Maybe, but I have to try." 17 days. From Renee Hood's death to my death.
Alex turned onto Nicollet Avenue. Traffic was calm. Still too early for morning rush. He drove past Pam's Donuts on the corner of 26th Street. The lights were on inside. In an hour and a half, this place would become the last thing he'd see. He parked 2 blocks from the intersection, turned off the engine. Silence. Only the beating of his own heart. Alex checked his phone. Camera charged. Enough storage. He always recorded everything. Video was proof. Proof that couldn't be denied. He checked the holster. The pistol was there. Glock 19. Legal weapon. Valid carry permit. He never drew it at protests, never even thought about it. But he carried it. Because he had the right. Because times were dangerous. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara would later confirm to journalists, Alex Priddy was a law-abiding gun owner with a valid carry permit and clean criminal history. He had no criminal record whatsoever. Alex got out of the car. Cold January air hit his face. 10 degrees. He zipped up his jacket, raised the collar, pulled on a hat. The pain in his side pulsed with each step. He ignored it. He walked toward the intersection.
Mom told journalists afterward, he hated seeing people destroy the land. He was an avid outdoorsman. He took his dog everywhere. He loved this country, but was disappointed by what was happening to it. That's true. I loved nature more than almost anything, except maybe people. Every weekend when I could, I'd take Jewel and drive out of town, sometimes north to Lake Superior, sometimes west to Wisconsin's nature parks, sometimes just to regional parks around Minneapolis. Jewel was my best friend. Catahoula leopard dog, a working breed from Louisiana. Spotted coat, blue eyes, endless energy. I got him from a shelter 4 years ago. He was already an adult dog no one wanted. Too active, too independent. We suited each other perfectly. He'd run alongside when I mountain biked on forest trails. He'd swim in lakes when I stopped to rest. He'd sleep at my feet in the tent when we stayed overnight. He went with me to protests, always beside me, calm, observant. People would stop to pet him, and it eased tension. Even in the crowd, even when police stood in formation, even when everything was on the edge, Jewel was an anchor of calm. He died in early December. Cancer. Fast, aggressive. The vet said we could try treatment, but chances were slim and the dog would suffer. I made the decision. The hardest decision of my life. I held him in my arms when they gave the injection, looked into his blue eyes, stroked his spotted fur, whispered, "Good boy. You were such a good boy. Thank you for being with me." He fell asleep quietly, without pain, without fear. I cried all the way home, cried in the empty apartment where everything reminded me of him. Bowl, toys, leash, his spot by my bed. Colleagues at the hospital noticed. I became quieter, more thoughtful. Dr. Draconia said, "Take time off, Priddy. Rest." I refused. Work helped me not to think. But protests became harder without Jewel, loneliness in a crowd. No one beside me who would just be there without words. The Trump administration announced major changes in environmental policy at the end of 2025, lifting restrictions on extraction in national parks, cutting funding for endangered species protection, allowing pipeline construction through protected territories. This was also destruction, not as dramatic as gunshots in the streets, but destruction, slow killing of what can't be returned. I remembered the Wisconsin forests. I remembered Dad's words, "We're only stewards." And I saw how the stewards had failed their task.
8:45 a.m. The intersection Alex stood on the corner of 26th Street and Nicollet Avenue. Good vantage point. Several other observers were scattered around the perimeter. He recognized some faces. Maria from ILCM. Jacob, a law student. An old woman whose name he didn't know but who came every day with a sign reading, "Not in our city." Traffic was normal. Cars, buses, a few cyclists. The donut shop had opened. People went in for morning coffee, rushing to work. An ordinary morning. But Alex felt tension in the air. It was almost physical. People glanced over their shoulders, quickened their pace. Parents held children's hands tighter. At 8:52, the vans appeared. 3 unmarked vans. Black, with tinted windows, no license plates, no ICS markings. They stopped a block from the intersection. Alex took out his phone, started recording. Agents got out of the vans. 7 people. Black uniforms, body armor, weapons on belts, masks covering faces. No badges, no names. They began moving down the sidewalk. Fast, purposefully. Hunters stalking prey. People on the street froze, then began to disperse. Someone quickened their pace. Someone ducked into stores. Several people crossed to the other side of the street. The agents approached a group of people at a bus stop. 3 men, 2 women, Latino. They stood quietly, trying not to attract attention. An agent said something. Alex couldn't hear. He was too far, but he saw the reaction. Fear. One of the men tried to leave. The agents grabbed him. Quick, professional. Hands behind back. Handcuffs. A woman screamed, "He's my husband! He has papers! He has a right to be here!" The agents ignored her. Alex moved closer. Phone aimed at the scene. Recording everything. Other observers also approached. Maria was shouting, "Show warrants! Do you have arrest warrants?" The agents didn't answer. The woman was pushed. She fell to the sidewalk, hard. Alex heard her cry out in pain. Instinct. "Nurse, someone's injured." Alex moved forward, holding the phone in one hand, raising the other. "Stop! She might be hurt. I'm a nurse. Let me check her." The agents turned toward him. "Back off! Don't interfere with a federal operation." "I'm not interfering. I'm a medical professional. She fell. She needs help." The woman on the ground was trying to stand. Blood on her palm. She'd cut her hand on the asphalt. Alex took another step forward. "Let me help her." At that moment, the man the agents were holding broke free. He ran. Down the sidewalk, toward the donut shop on the corner. The agents rushed after him. Chaos. People screaming. The woman on the ground crying. The other 2 men from the group running in the opposite direction. Alex stood at the intersection, phone in hand. He was recording. The agents disappeared through the donut shop door. A few seconds later, shouts came from inside. Alex looked at the woman on the ground. Maria had already run to her, was helping her up. Cars stopped at the intersection, blocking traffic. Drivers didn't know what to do. Some tried to turn around. Some just sat there, in shock. Alex began directing traffic. Reflex. Help. Organize chaos. "Let the cars through! Clear the intersection!" he shouted, waving his arms. Several cars began to move. Slowly, carefully. It was 9:01. Act 3. The last minutes, 9:01 a.m. Confrontation. The agents came out of the donut shop. They were dragging a man. He was resisting, shouting something in Spanish. Alex was still standing in the middle of the intersection, still recording. Phone aimed at the agents. One of the agents looked at him. Through the mask, Alex couldn't see his face. Only eyes. Cold, indifferent. Put down the phone. Back off. Alex didn't move. I'm a citizen. I have the right to record. This is a public place. Last warning. Back off. I'm not interfering with you. I'm just recording. The agents approached. They were dragging the man between them. He was no longer resisting, just hanging on their arms, exhausted. Alex took a step back, not from fear, just giving them room to pass. But they didn't pass. They stopped, right in front of him. Who are you? Alex Pretty. I'm a nurse. I live in this city. I'm a U.S. citizen. You armed? Alex froze. He had a weapon. In the holster under his jacket. Legal weapon. I have a concealed carry permit. Show your hands. Alex raised his hands. In one was his phone. The other was empty. Slowly put the phone on the ground. Alex hesitated. If he put down the phone, the recording would stop. The evidence would disappear. I said put down the phone. At that moment, something no one expected happened. The man the agents were holding suddenly jerked, hard, desperately. Survival instinct. The agents lost their grip for a second. The man broke free, ran, again, across the intersection, straight toward Alex. Everything happened in fractions of a second. Alex reacted instinctively. He didn't think. He just moved. Shielded the man with his body, spread his arms. A barrier between the fugitive and the pursuers. Stop! Enough! He's unarmed. The agents didn't stop. They saw a figure. Spread arms. Quick movement of hand toward jacket. They didn't see that Alex had simply recoiled from collision with the running man. That his hand instinctively jerked to restore balance. They saw a threat. 9:02 a.m., 5 seconds first shot. Alex didn't even feel pain immediately. Just a push in the chest. Strong. Like a hammer blow. He took a step back. Looked down. A red stain spreading on his jacket. Strange. This is strange. I don't understand. Second shot. In the stomach. Pain. Sharp, burning, unbearable. His legs gave way. He was falling. The asphalt was cold. So cold. Third shot. Fourth. Fifth. He lay on the ground. Couldn't move. Couldn't scream. Only felt something warm spreading beneath him. Blood. My blood. The agents kept shooting. Sixth. Seventh. Eighth. Why? I'm already on the ground. I'm not moving. Why? Ninth. 10th. 5 seconds. 10 shots. At least 10. Experts would count later from video by random observers. Maybe more. Some hit the body multiple times. Screaming. Somewhere far away. Maria screaming. Someone crying. Sirens. Already sirens? So fast? Alex lay on his back. Looked at the sky. Gray January sky of Minneapolis. Low clouds. It hurts. It hurts so much. He tried to breathe, gurgling in his throat. Blood. Blood in his lungs. I'm a nurse. I know what this means. Pneumothorax. Internal bleeding. I have minutes. Maybe less. Faces above him. Agents. Masks. They looked down. One spoke into a radio. Voice calm, businesslike. Subject neutralized. Requesting medical assistance. Subject. I'm a subject, not Alex, not a person. Subject. He tried to speak. Only a wheeze and blood came from his throat. The agent stepped back. Made space. Other faces. Paramedics? So fast? No, not paramedics. Maria. She was beside him, holding his hand. Alex! Alex, hold on! Ambulance is coming! Hold on! He wanted to tell her it was okay, that it wasn't her fault, that she should continue, should fight, should remember. But he couldn't speak. Cold. So cold.
Visions came in waves. Mom, kitchen in Green Bay, smell of coffee, her smile. Alex, honey, time to wake up. Sorry, Mom, I won't wake up anymore. Dad, Forrest, Boy Scouts, his hand on my shoulder. Help others at all times. I helped, Dad, until the end. I helped. Jewel, spotted fur, blue eyes. He's running on the forest trail. Looks back, waiting for me. I'm coming, boy. Wait a little. Patience, faces in the hospital. George, Vietnam veteran. Thank you for being with me. I was with all of you. Renee Hood. I never saw her alive, only a photograph, but now I understand. Now I know what she felt in the last second. Shock, disbelief. This can't be happening. Not to me, not in my country, but it is happening. It is happening. Wisconsin forests, green cathedrals of pines, silence, clean air, sunbeams breaking through branches, ground soft underfoot, Jewel beside me, Dad beside me, Mom singing somewhere, peace, finally peace. But before peace, one last thought, clear, sharp, like a cry in darkness. Let my death not be in vain. Let people see, let them know the truth. Let someone who reads my story, who hears my name, decide to stand, decide not to be silent, decide to help others at all times, because silence is death. Silence kills more than bullets. And I don't want my name to become just another statistic, another forgotten case. I want it to become fire. Fire that will ignite others, that will make them stand and say, enough. Enough killing the innocent, enough terrorizing citizens, enough turning America into a police state. Enough. This is my last will, last wish, last cry. Let my death not be in vain.
9:32 a.m. The end Alex Pretty was taken to Hennepin Healthcare, the same one near the Veterans Hospital where he worked. Paramedics did everything possible. Compression, infusions, oxygen. But the injuries were too severe. 10 bullets. Chest, abdomen, lungs, liver, too much damage. At 9:32 a.m., 30 minutes after the shooting, the emergency department doctor pronounced Alex Pretty dead. The nurse covering the body broke down crying. She recognized him. She'd worked with him a year ago. She remembered his smile, his kindness, how he always brought donuts for the night shift. Now he lay on a gurney, white sheet, empty body. The person who was no more. The news spread instantly. Social media, messengers, phone calls. At the Veterans Hospital, the shift stopped. Nurses cried in the hallway. Dr. Dracania sat in his office, holding his head in his hands. Outstanding nurse, he repeated. Outstanding person. Alex's parents learned from a police officer who came to their door in Green Bay. The father didn't cry immediately. He just stood there, stone-faced, not believing. The mother fell to her knees and screamed, "No, not my boy, not my Alex." The official statement from the Department of Homeland Security appeared an hour later. During an operation to apprehend illegal immigrants in Minneapolis, agents were approached by an armed man who offered fierce resistance. An agent used his firearm in self-defense. Investigation continues. But videos told a different story. Observer cameras, random phones, street surveillance cameras. They all showed the same thing. Alex Pretty stood with his phone, raised his hands, didn't threaten, just stood, instinctively shielded a person. 10 shots in 5 seconds. Most fired when he was already on the ground, defenseless, motionless. Self-defense? From a man on the ground? President Trump spoke through his Truth Social network that evening, January 24th. ICS agents defended themselves from an armed criminal. Liberal media once again lying to the American people. We support our agents who risk their lives every day. Minneapolis mayor and Minnesota governor won't let local police help federal agents. Disgrace. He posted a photo of a Glock 19. The implication: Alex was armed, therefore dangerous. But he never drew the weapon, and videos showed it. His hands were visible, one with phone. the other empty. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara spoke publicly. Alex Pretty was a law-abiding citizen. He had a carry permit. He had no criminal record. He was a nurse who dedicated his life to helping veterans. He was killed while observing an operation and trying to help an injured woman. This isn't self-defense, this is murder. Protests began that same evening. Hundreds of people gathered at the intersection of 26th Street and Nicollet Avenue. Candles, flowers, signs. His name is Alex Pretty. Nurse, citizen, hero. Stop killing Americans. Justice for Alex. The Immigrant League of Community Minnesota, ILCM, issued a statement. Alex Pretty and Renee Hood were killed by the government for defending their neighbors from ICS violence. This is state terror. We demand immediate investigation, dismissal of responsible agents, and cessation of operations in Minneapolis. Someone created a GoFundMe page for Alex's family. Goal: help with funeral costs, support parents. In the first 24 hours, they raised over $1 million. Thousands of people donated $10, $100, $1,000. With messages: thank you for your service. You're a hero. We won't forget. Justice will prevail. Protests spread to other cities: New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle. Hundreds of cities across the country. People came out with signs, candles, demands. 2 American citizens killed by federal agents in 3 weeks, both in Minneapolis, both during operations against immigrants, both unarmed at the moment of confrontation. This wasn't coincidence. This was a pattern. This was policy. Epilogue. Memory and fire. Voices of memory. Alex's mother, Susan Pretty, gave an interview to CNN 3 days after her son's death. Her face was swollen from tears, but her voice was firm. Alex loved this country. He loved nature. He loved people. He was disappointed by policies that destroy the land and terrorize the innocent. But he never lost hope. He believed that ordinary people like him could change the world. He told me on the phone the day before he died, "Mom, if I don't stand for truth, who will?" Now he's dead. For what? For recording on his phone? For trying to help an injured woman? For standing on a public street as a citizen? Is this America now? Alex's father, Michael Pretty, spoke with journalists with difficulty, fighting tears. "I taught my son to help others at all times. I taught him to stand for truth. I'm proud of him, but I wish the world didn't demand such a sacrifice from him." He described ICS actions as kidnapping children in the streets. He was right. That's exactly what it is. And now they killed my child for being a witness. Dr. Dimitri Draconia, head of the infectious disease department, gave a statement on behalf of Veterans Hospital staff. Alex Pretty was an outstanding nurse. He cared deeply for his patients. He was a professional who did his job with dedication and compassion. He saved lives. That was the meaning of his existence, saving lives. And he was killed by the government he served, on the streets of the city he loved. This is tragedy. This is shame. Jean Trebas, daughter of a Vietnam veteran Alex cared for in December 2023. "My father died with dignity thanks to Alex. He was there in the darkest hours. He held Dad's hand when he was panicking. He spoke to him quietly, patiently, with such kindness. I'll never forget him." Alex was a person who made the world better simply by his presence. And they killed him. For what? For kindness? For courage? For honesty? If people like Alex are dangerous to the government, then the government is dangerous to all of us. Colleagues from Professional Unit 3669 of the American Federation of Government Employees issued a collective statement. Brother Alex Pretty gave his life in service to veterans and in defense of community. He was a member of our union, our comrade, our hero. We demand justice. We demand accountability. We won't stop until the killers face trial. The wave of protests. Protests continued for weeks. Minneapolis became the epicenter of a national movement against immigration terror. Streets were filled with people, young and old, white, black, Latino, Asian, citizens and immigrants, healthcare workers in white coats, veterans in uniform, students with signs, families with children. They held photos of Alex Pretty and Renee Hood, 2 lives, 2 Americans, killed in 3 weeks. Not another victim. Power without accountability is tyranny. Nurse saved lives. Government takes them. Justice for Alex and Renee. The GoFundMe page reached $1.5 million in a week. Alex's family announced that part of the funds would go toward creating the Alex Pretty Memorial Fund, scholarships for nursing students who dedicate themselves to working with underserved communities. Organizations across the country took Alex's name as a symbol: medical associations, unions, civil rights groups, student movements. He wasn't a politician, wasn't a celebrity, wasn't a movement leader. He was simply a person, a nurse, a son, a friend, nature lover, dog owner, a scout who remembered the first law: help others at all times. And that's precisely why his death struck so deep. Because he could have been anyone: a neighbor, colleague, brother, son. If they could kill him, ordinary, law-abiding, kind person, then they could kill anyone. The moral message: Alex Pretty dedicated his life to saving those who defended this country. He was a nurse at a veterans hospital. His hands healed the wounds of war. His voice calmed the suffering. His presence gave hope to the dying. But who protects citizens from their own government? He wasn't a criminal. He didn't threaten. He didn't attack. He was a witness. He recorded. He tried to help an injured woman. He stood on a public street as a free citizen in a free country. And for that they killed him. 10 bullets in 5 seconds. Most fired when he was already on the ground, defenseless. This isn't self-defense. This is execution. The Trump administration's policies turned neighbors into enemies, citizens into targets, streets into battlefields. ICS operations became not simply immigration control, they became terror. Systematic, targeted terror against entire communities. Renee Hood was killed because her car was in the wrong place. Alex Pretty was killed because he was a witness. Both U.S. citizens. Both unarmed at the moment of confrontation. Both killed by agents who were supposed to uphold the law. Where is the law? Where is justice? Where is accountability? The president defends killers. The federal government blocks investigation. Agents remain nameless, unpunished, free. And we must ask ourselves, what does this say about us as a nation? Alex Pretty wasn't a superhero. He didn't have superpowers. He wasn't perfect. He was human, with doubts, fears, pain. But he made a choice. He chose not to be silent. He chose not to turn away. He chose to stand between power and the powerless. And that's precisely why his death is a mirror for all of us. In an era when power demands silence, speaking is an act of courage. In an era when government terrorizes citizens, being a witness is an act of resistance. In an era when people are killed for kindness, kindness is an act of revolution. Alex Pretty was a nurse. His hands were made to heal wounds. He took an oath: do no harm, protect life. He kept it until the end. He treated war veterans by day. He defended peaceful citizens by evening. He saved lives in the hospital. He protected lives on the streets. He was a steward, steward of people, steward of values, steward of the idea that all lives are sacred. And he died defending what he loved. The question now is for us: what will we do? Will we be silent? Turn away? Pretend this isn't our problem? Or will we stand? Say enough? Demand accountability? Defend those who cannot defend themselves? Alex Pretty can no longer speak. His voice is silenced by bullets, but his story can speak through us. If we allow his death to be in vain, if we forget, if we forgive, if we accept this as inevitable, then we betray not only him, but ourselves. Silence is death. Silence kills more than bullets. Because silence gives permission. Silence tells power. Continue. We won't stop you. But if we don't stay silent, if we remember, demand, fight, then his death becomes fire. Fire that will ignite others, that will warm the frozen, that will light the darkness. Alex Pretty was an ordinary person who made an extraordinary choice. Now it's our turn to choose. Memory or oblivion, voice or silence, justice or complicity. The choice is ours. But no, history is watching. The future judges. And our children will ask, where were you when this was happening? What will we answer? Final image. At the intersection of 26th Street and Nicollet Avenue, they erected a makeshift memorial. Flowers, hundreds of bouquets, wilting in the January frost, candles burning day and night, protected from wind by glass holders. Photographs. Alex in nurse's scrubs, smiling. Alex with Jewel in the forest. Alex at a 2020 protest, holding a Black Lives Matter sign. Messages written on signs attached to the fence. Thank you for your service. Both services, to veterans and to truth. You were light in darkness. We'll continue what you started. Justice. Always. Even when it costs. People came every day, left flowers, stood in silence, cried, hugged strangers. Next to Alex's photo, a photo of Renee Hood. 2 lives, 2 faces, 2 names that must never be forgotten. Sunset over Minneapolis painted the sky in shades of red and gold. The city continued living. Cars drove. People hurried home. Life went on. But at this intersection, time had stopped. Here, on cold asphalt where blood had long been washed away but memory remained. Here, where an ordinary person made an extraordinary choice. Here, where life ended, but the story had just begun. The echo of Alex Pretty's voice sounded in the wind. Help others at all times, even when it costs, especially when it costs. The end. This story is based on real events of January 2026. Names were changed, but the essence remained truth. Alex Pretty is a portrait of a real person who lived, loved, served, and died defending what he believed in. His story is a reminder that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary courage, and that the cost of silence is always higher than the cost of voice. Remember, demand justice. Don't turn away, because the next one could be anyone.